Somewhere on a wet leaf, a snail is climbing toward the light. And that is the first sign that something is very wrong. Because this snail should be hiding. Instead, it's hauling itself out into the open, waving two swollen, pulsing eyes, as if it wants to be eaten. Everything about a snail is built to disappear. Slow, soft, armored. It avoids the sun, hugs the shadows, and pulls back into its shell at the first hint of danger. For a snail, survival means not being noticed. So when you find one doing the exact opposite, climbing high, sitting in plain view, pulsing with color, you are not really looking at a snail anymore. You're looking at something else, wearing a snail. Inside this animal is a parasite that has quietly taken the wheel. It has turned the body against its own instincts and turned the snail's own eyes into a lure, aimed at the one thing it should fear most. Here's where we're going. First, why this snail does the one thing no snail should ever do. Then, the thing growing inside its eyes and what it's pretending to be. And finally, the part that still stops scientists cold. How a creature with no brain pulls any of it off. By the end, you'll understand almost all of it. Almost. Let's start with the victim. This is an amber snail, a small, translucent land snail, the kind you'd walk past 1,000 times and never register. It lives in damp, hidden places, the undersides of leaves, the base of wet grass, the shadowed seams of the forest floor. And its entire life is a careful negotiation with light. Too much sun dries it out and kills it. So an amber snail reads light the way your hand reads a hot stove, as something to pull away from, fast. A healthy one stays low. It feeds in the cool and the dark, hides through the bright hours, and keeps to the sheltered places where a hungry bird is least likely to look down and find it. This isn't a decision the snail weighs. It's wired in, a reflex as deep as breathing. Avoid the light. Stay hidden. Stay alive. Picture its ordinary day. As the sun comes up, a healthy amber snail is already tucked away, wedged under a curl of dead leaf, pressed into a damp crease of bark, its body sealed against the drying air. It waits out the bright hours in the dark, barely moving. Only when the light softens and the dew returns does it ease out to feed, gliding across the undersides of leaves where almost nothing can spot it from above. That is the whole shape of a snail's life. A long, patient effort to stay cool, stay wet, and stay unseen. And it is very good at it. Its ancestors survived for one simple reason. They were boring, and they were invisible. Now watch what an infected snail does instead. It climbs. Not to feed. There is nothing up there worth eating. It drags its soft body up a stem, past the safe shadows, all the way to the exposed tips of the vegetation. And then it stops. Out in the open, in the brightest, most visible spot it can reach. When researchers went looking for this pattern, it held. Snails carrying this parasite were found sitting higher up, in more exposed positions, in better lit places than the healthy snails right beside them. The infection doesn't just make the snail sick, it rewrites where the snail wants to be. Sit with what that actually means. Every instinct this animal has, every line of code that kept 100 generations of its ancestors alive, says go down, go dark, hide. And something has reached inside and flipped the sign. Down has become up. The danger zone has become the destination. The snail is now performing the single most dangerous act available to a snail, making itself easy to find. And it's doing it with what looks unsettlingly like purpose. But it is not the snail's purpose. The snail is just the vehicle. The thing steering it is inside the body, and it has very specific plans where this snail needs to go and what it needs to look like when it arrives. Because climbing into the light is only half the trick. A snail in the open is more visible, yes, but a bird still has to want it. A plain brown snail isn't a tempting meal. Birds will often ignore one entirely. So the parasite does something far stranger than simply moving the snail around. It changes how the snail looks. It builds, inside the animal's own body, a piece of bait. And it places that bait in the last spot you would ever think to put it. It puts it in the eyes. But this is where it stops being a story about a snail at all. Because what is growing inside those eyes is not part of the snail. It's alive on its own. And in a moment, you're going to watch it move. To understand what's in the eyes, you have to back up to how it got in. It begins, of all places, with bird droppings. A bird already carrying this parasite scatters microscopic eggs across the leaves below it. The snail, grazing along that surface, eats them without the faintest idea. That's the doorway. One contaminated meal, and the parasite is inside. And what hatches does not stay small. It grows into a branching, tube-shaped body that spreads through the snail's soft tissue and settles deep near the digestive gland. From that central mass, it pushes out long, sac-like extensions, broodsacs. These are the working end of the parasite, and they have somewhere to be. They drive forward into the snail's head and force their way into the hollow tentacles, the eye stalks, until each one is packed tight and swollen to several times its normal size. The snail's delicate eye stalks become tubes stuffed full of parasite. Now look at one. What was a thin grey feeler is now a fat, glistening barrel, banded in green and brown and cream. The skin stretched so thin you can nearly see through it. And then it begins to move. The bands pulse, a wave of color and swelling that rolls up the stalk again and again, fast and rhythmic, like a heartbeat that does not belong to the snail. Because it doesn't. This is the detail that changes the entire story. The snail is not pulsing its own eyes. It can't. That throbbing is the parasite itself, flexing inside the tentacle. The broodsac contracting under its own power, working its own muscles, putting on a show inside a window of the snail's body. When you watch an infected eye stalk pulse, you are not watching a snail at all. You are watching the parasite move, wearing the snail's eye like a costume. And the performance has a very particular audience in mind. Up there in the daylight, that fat, striped, pulsing tube looks like something specific. It looks like a caterpillar, a plump, wriggling grub, exactly the soft, slow larva that songbirds hunt all day long. The parasite has turned the snail's eyes into a fake caterpillar and hung it in the brightest spot for miles, twitching, practically begging to be spotted. And often, it isn't just one eye. In many infected snails, both tentacles are taken at once. Two fat, banded tubes pulsing side by side, doubling the display. To a bird, this hits every button that says food. Birds hunting caterpillars don't reason it out. They lock onto a simple set of cues: a soft, segmented shape, a wriggling motion, the right banded color against a leaf. The broodsac counterfeits all three. The swelling gives it the plump body, the pulsing gives it the wriggle, The green and brown banding gives it the costume. It isn't a perfect caterpillar. It doesn't have to be. It only has to be convincing for the half second it takes a hungry bird to commit. Step back and take in the whole machine. A parasite has hollowed out an animal's senses and replaced them with an advertisement for itself. The eyes the snail uses to read the light and sense danger are now a lure pointed straight at its predator. And it can't even see properly anymore. The thing filling its eyes has half blinded it to the exact threat it's being dressed up to attract. The eyes that should warn it of the bird have become the reason the bird comes. So now we reach the real question, the one sitting underneath this entire story. How? How does a flatworm with no brain, no plan, and no concept of what a bird even is, talk a snail into climbing to its own death? It is easy to say the words mind control. It is much harder to explain them. For a long time, the easy picture was the one everyone reached for. The parasite as a puppeteer, sending precise commands into the snail's brain, steering it like a machine. It's a satisfying image. It is also probably too clean. Because when you look closely at this particular parasite, the control doesn't look like fine, deliberate steering. It looks like something cruder, and, in its own way, more disturbing. Remember what the broodsacs do to the eyes. They don't just decorate them, they fill them. They pack into the very organs the snail uses to sense light, and a snail that can no longer read the light properly may lose the one signal that normally tells it, "You've gone too far. It's too bright up here. Go back down." So one leading idea is almost mechanical in its cruelty. The parasite may not need to send any complicated "climb into the sun" command at all. It may simply break the snail's ability to know it's in the sun, switching off the alarm so the animal wanders into the open without the warning that would normally drag it back. Not a puppeteer pulling strings, more like cutting the wire to a smoke detector and letting the house quietly fill with smoke. And that reframes the whole thing. We tend to assume these zombie stories are about a parasite adding something, installing new behavior, writing new commands into a victim. But here, the manipulation might be mostly about taking something away, blinding, disabling, removing the safety check that kept the snail alive, and letting the snail's own movements carry it the rest of the way. The horror isn't a master commanding a slave. It's a body running half-broken, doing fatal things because the part of it that said, "Don't," has been switched off. But, and this is the honest part, we don't actually know that's the whole answer. The blindness idea is compelling, and it fits what we see. But whether that alone explains the climbing, the timing, the way these snails seem drawn upward and outward with something that looks almost like intent, that is still open. Is it pure side effect? Is there a chemical signal nobody has pinned down yet? Is the parasite doing more than just blocking the eyes? Part of why this is so hard to answer is the sheer scale of it. You're trying to watch a conversation between a brainless worm and a snail's simple nervous system. A simple ring of nerve clusters, no complex brain like ours, happening inside a body smaller than your fingernail. There's no obvious wire to follow, no single switch you can flip and test. So we're left mostly with the view from outside. We can see the snail change, we can see the broodsac sitting in the eye, and we can line up cause and effect by watching enough infected snails do the same thing. But the actual handshake, the precise way the parasite's presence becomes the snail's behavior, is still mostly a black box. For one of the most famous mind-controlled parasites on Earth, The actual mechanism, the real how, is still not fully solved. We can watch the whole thing happen. We just can't yet explain all of it. Which leaves the snail in a strange kind of limbo. Not quite a puppet, not quite itself. An animal whose alarms have been silenced and whose eyes have been turned into bait, climbing toward a light it may no longer be able to feel as a threat. And up there, in the open, the thing this entire machine was built for is finally about to happen. And when it happens, it does not end the way you'd expect. The snail is about to be attacked, and it is going to survive. What the parasite does after that is the coldest part of all. High on its exposed perch, the snail waves its two pulsing lures, and eventually the audience arrives. A songbird, a finch, a robin, something small and sharp-eyed and endlessly hunting for grubs. It catches the movement. The twitching, striped tube reads as exactly what the parasite engineered it to read as: a fat caterpillar sitting in plain sight. The bird drops in, and it does what birds do to caterpillars. It strikes and snips the eye stalk clean off. Here's the part you have to sit with. The bird does not eat the snail. It eats the eye. It takes the swollen, parasite-filled tentacle, only the tentacle, and swallows it. And inside that severed stalk is everything the parasite was building toward. A dense mass of its own larval offspring, the next generation, riding into the bird's body inside a single bite of fake caterpillar. The entire grotesque performance, the climbing, the blinding, the pulsing, the color, all of it existed for this 1 second. To move those larvae out of a snail who cannot fly and into a bird who can. The snail was never the point. The snail was the delivery van. And once it's inside the bird, the parasite finally gets what it was actually after. In the bird's gut, the larvae mature into adults. They reproduce, and they release a fresh wave of microscopic eggs, which leave the bird the way everything eventually leaves a bird, in its droppings, scattered back down onto the leaves below, where another amber snail is grazing. And the whole thing begins again. A loop with no exit, running through two completely different animals, powered by a lie told with a snail's own eyes. And take a second to appreciate how strange that loop is. This parasite cannot finish its life inside the snail. It physically can't grow up in there. It can only become an adult and reproduce inside a bird. So evolution handed it a brutal little problem. How do you get from an animal that crawls in the dirt to an animal that flies, when you yourself are a worm that can do neither? The answer it landed on wasn't to grow wings, or learn to jump, or wait and hope. It was to reach into the crawling animal, rebuild its eyes into bait, and convince the flying animal to come down and carry you up itself. The snail's death isn't a side effect of the parasite feeding. It is the delivery system. It's the entire point. But we skipped the cruelest detail. Go back to the snail, sitting up there, one eye stalk just torn away. You'd assume that's the end of it, that the snail, mutilated and emptied out, simply dies. It usually doesn't. The snail survives the attack, and here is what makes this parasite genuinely merciless. A snail can regrow a lost eye stalk. So it does. It slowly rebuilds the tentacle the bird tore off. And the parasite, still alive inside the body, still sitting in that central mass, simply grows a fresh broodsac and pushes it up into the brand new eye stalk. And the snail goes back up into the light, to be eaten again. Think about that as a strategy. The parasite doesn't burn through its host in one shot. It keeps the snail alive and uses it again and again. A renewable supply of bait, refilled and reoffered every single time a bird takes a bite. The snail is not killed for the cause. It is kept for the cause. A living animal, reduced to a vending machine for a parasite's children, restocking itself after every theft. And through all of it, the snail keeps doing ordinary snail things. It crawls, it feeds, it survives in the narrowest sense of the word. From the outside, it's just a little snail on a leaf going about its day. But every decision that matters, where to go, how high to climb, when to sit out in the open, isn't really its decision anymore. It's wearing its own body like a suit that something else is steering. And the strangest part, the part we opened with, is still sitting right at the center of it. We can describe every step of this. We still can't fully say how the thing at the wheel makes the snail want to climb. So let's go back to where we started. A snail, climbing toward the light, waving two swollen eyes, looking for all the world like it wants to be eaten. Now you know what it really is. A flatworm that slipped in through a single contaminated meal, hollowed out the snail's eyes, silenced its fear of the light, and turned it into a self-restocking lure for a bird it will never even perceive. You know the why. You know the how. Almost all of it. Almost. Because the final piece, the exact mechanism that flips a snail's deepest instinct inside out, is still not fully understood. We can film it. We can trace the eggs, the broodsacs, the birds, the whole closed loop. But the moment of control itself, the instant a brainless parasite makes a living thing choose its own death, still slips through our fingers. The most unsettling thing about this snail isn't what you can see moving in its eyes. It's that, even now, we don't completely understand what's looking back. If you're the kind of person who finds this more beautiful than horrifying, who would rather look straight at the strange, ruthless machinery running underneath the natural world than look away from it, then this channel was built for you. Subscribe and stay close, because we are only going deeper. Next time, we stay with the hijackers, but we leave the snail behind. There's a wasp that doesn't just take over its victim's body. It performs surgery on the brain itself, a precise, deliberate operation that turns a living cockroach into a calm, obedient servant and walks it gently to its own grave. It might be the most disturbing thing one animal has ever evolved to do to another. And it's next.